So today's video is about why it's so damn hard to get estimations right. Estimations are key to a project success, and they influence so many things around the project, right from stakeholder expectations to budget to timelines. And they're very easy to get wrong, and they're very hard to get right. Estimations matter because software is a team sport. There's lots of different stakeholders involved in any software project. You have the development team, and then you have the surrounding business stakeholders within the developing company, and also the customer's company. The customer wants to know how long is it going to take and how much do I have to pay, and that is usually where estimations come out. And it's a whole heap of different styles that can be used to deliver estimations. So there's a tension between waterfall estimations, where you estimate every single thing down to the nth degree, versus the other side of the coin, whereas you don't estimate at all and you just get on with the work. And it's finding a balance between the two. These are the trade-offs between certainty and adaptability. The difficulty is that when you provide an estimation, that expectation is set. And so you need to understand if the project is going to be adaptable to estimations as things evolve, or it's going to be fixed in regards to the contract. So it always comes back to contracting as well. And estimations impact a number of different things. So there's team stress. Once the estimations are set, the team has a certain level of stress to deliver that. There's stakeholder trust. If estimations are continually not delivered, stakeholder trust erodes. And then there's budget blowouts as well. As soon as the budget is set and then the estimation changes or is not delivered, then there's a perceived budget blowout. And of course, delivery delays as well. Estimations are hard for a number of different reasons. Firstly, that we're dealing with unpredictable outcomes that are based in the future. And we're also dealing with irrational people. So there's a psychological and there is a scientific side to both sides of the estimation coin. When we as humans think about the future, we're often overly confident or overly positive, which has a negative effect. We think about the things that we need to do to make this happen, which are good, rather than thinking about all of the things that could possibly go wrong and all of the extra things beneath that. And when it comes to software, you're effectively building something that is very hard to predict. So there's something called the cone of uncertainty, which means that the further away an object is in time, the more uncertainty it is. So think of it as a principle where as time expands, the gap that you have to estimate in is multiplying out, making it a lot harder for those predictions to come through. So when it comes down to estimations, it's very difficult to get it right. We've all been in meetings as well where estimations can change based on perceptions. Suddenly one thing is perceived to be very hard and someone contributes something else and then it's perceived to be very easy. I've often had the case where something that I think is going to be very easy, when I'm talking to a client, I will say, yeah, that should be no worries, and then talk to the technical team and they can then explain to me the unintended outcomes of doing that, or the unintended consequences. So it might be technically easy, but then it has other repercussions down the line for both the functional and non-functional requirements of a software system. So we used to do estimations in a very scientific way, as that was one of our old values, scientific but not heartless. The way that we did it was firstly down to the issue level. So we would have a gigantic spreadsheet and we would go through and we would estimate every issue with a time-based estimation that would rise up in a Fibonacci-esque sequence, which sounds good. And then we would apply a couple of factors. So we would apply a risk factor to the estimations as to how risky we perceive that individual functionality to be, and then we'd also apply an allocation factor, so we weren't fully utilising the team to deliver that estimation for about 20%, so they've got time to get meetings done and everything else they need to do for their job, such as learning. That spreadsheet was a beast, and it would often take days to figure out what the estimations actually were, and then you have this kind of golden thing that everyone would hold to, that those are the estimations and that's what we said we'd do. and we'd be in a position where we caused rigidity in the project, in that we weren't able to change things because we'd already given those estimations down to a certain level of detail, and we weren't able to re-estimate on a milestone by milestone basis. So it was both good and bad, and there was often a lot of uncertainty and fear around that estimation process. So we decided to change things, and we decided to do things a lot more simply. How we do things now, as I said before, is a lot more simply. We've actually created a estimation policy within our quality management system that is aligned to ISO standard 9001, and the units that we use, instead of story points or t-shirt estimations or fixed time deliveries, is we used time. So we use time on a milestone basis. So whenever we're doing a discovery or we're planning a milestone, we actually have about 3 or 4 different streams in that milestone. So we'll have the application stream, we'll have the administration stream, the project management stream, and the non-functional requirements. So the infrastructure as code, accessibility standards, and things like that. And we'll put all of the goals within that milestone into the stage plan, and we'll estimate against the stage plan. Now, instead of saying, right, this is going to be this much time for this particular goal, we estimate the milestone as a whole as a team. So what we do is bring in the collective wisdom and knowledge of the team. So that's all the different stakeholders, from the solution architect to the developers to the designers to the BAs, and we estimate. And the way that we look at the estimation is we say, right, are we happy with doing this in 2 weeks? No. Okay, are we happy with doing this in 2 months? Yes. Okay, and then we narrow down those time frames until we all agree that we're comfortable with the time that it's going to take for that milestone to be achieved, and that's the estimation. So it gives us a min and a max within the range of where we're comfortable in delivering and happy to deliver within that time frame. We manage the risk behind estimations using our Prince2 project management method. So within Prince2, we have risks, and estimations are always a risk within the project. So every single project has an estimation risk. Within that, we score based on the likelihood and impact of the estimation. So initially, before we apply our mitigations, we have a score of 16, which is a pretty high score. It means that projects can really get derailed and be significantly impacted by underestimated, or not usually overestimated, estimations. So to do that, we have a number of different mitigations within the risk management strategy that we use to bring that risk down to a 4. So the first thing is that we model, so we ensure that everyone is aware of what needs to be done. We make sure that we complete a discovery on the milestone and the project where the team have time to elaborate and clarify what they're going to do. And then we also text bike. And text bike is where we say, right, if there's something that is an unknown or it has a high technical risk to it, we time box a certain amount of time for the solution architect or the developers to go in and explore possible solutions. So we'll say, right, we're going to set aside 2 days or a day to time box that particular thing. That will reduce the risk down because the knowledge and uncertainty has come up. And lastly, we very strictly manage our requirements. So using our approach of modeling, we ensure that every requirement goes into our requirements model and are well defined. That means that all the project stakeholders are well aware of the requirements upon which we're estimating. Some key lessons and takeaways from estimating are, firstly, understand their purpose. Where do they sit within the context of the project, and why are we using them? Are we using them to form a contract, or are the estimations separate from the contract and they're about stakeholder expectation? It's important to delineate between the two. The second is that we don't necessarily want to improve accuracy. We want to make sure that we have confidence in the estimation. It's not about going down to a certain level and The third thing is to make sure that we're communicating them better. It's good to communicate our estimations, but it's even better to communicate changes to our estimations. It's a culture of continuous improvement and data-informed trust. To close, estimates don't need to be perfect, but they do need to be honest, flexible, and clearly communicated to everyone involved.